The grand hall of the palace stretched higher than any building had ever seen on Earth. Crystal columns rose toward a ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. He stood in formation with 5 other human soldiers, all wearing their dress uniforms. Their boots clicked against the marble floor as they marched forward. His heart pounded in his chest. 2 years ago, Earth had barely survived a war against machines that came from deep space. Humanity had fought with everything they had, nuclear weapons, and pure stubborn courage. They won, but just barely. Now the galaxy wanted to meet the species crazy enough to defeat an enemy that had destroyed a dozen other civilizations. The Empire ruled 12 star systems. They were powerful, ancient, and they had abilities humans could only dream about. They could move objects with their minds. They could read thoughts. They could communicate across vast distances without any technology at all. Commander walked beside the formation. He was older than the others, with gray hair and scars from the machine war. He had trained since basic training. "Remember," whispered, "this ceremony is politics. Choose wisely." The Emperor of the sat on a throne made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. His skin was pale blue, and his eyes glowed with a soft purple light. Around him stood dozens of advisors and nobles, all wearing robes that shimmered with colors that didn't exist in Earth's spectrum. "Soldiers of Earth," the Emperor's voice filled the hall without him raising his tone. "You have proven your species worthy of joining our coalition. Today, we offer you a bond of alliance. 7 daughters of my house stand before you. Each of you may choose one as your diplomatic partner. This bond will tie our peoples together for generations." 7 women stepped forward from behind the throne. They wore flowing gowns, each a different color. They were beautiful in an otherworldly way, tall, graceful, with the same pale blue skin and glowing eyes as their father. The first princess raised her hand. A massive stone sculpture lifted from the floor and floated through the air like a feather. The nobles gasped in appreciation. The second princess touched the mind of a guard across the room, making him dance without moving his own muscles. One by one, each princess demonstrated her telepathic power. Then came the 7th princess. She was smaller than her sisters. Her gown was plain white while theirs sparkled with jewels. When she raised her hand, nothing happened at first. The nobles began to whisper. She closed her eyes, her face tight with concentration. A single flower petal lifted from the floor, wobbling in the air for just a moment before falling. The whispers turned to laughter. Someone in the crowd said, "The defective one." Another voice added, "7 daughters, but only 6 worth claiming." Watch the 7th princess's face. She didn't cry. She didn't show anger. She simply stood there, accepting the mockery like she had heard it 1,000 times before, but saw something the others didn't. When she had raised her hand, felt a tingling at the base of his skull. It wasn't like the heavy pressure of the other princesses' telepathy. It was different, lighter, faster, like static electricity dancing across his brain. The other princesses' minds shouted. Hers whispered in a frequency only he could hear. The other soldiers began to move. The youngest and most ambitious walked straight to the first princess. She smiled and took his hand. The crowd cheered. 2 more soldiers chose the 2nd and 3rd princesses. Commander surprised everyone by choosing the 4th princess, despite his age. Now only and 2 others remained. The 5th and 6th princesses waited, looking confident. The 7th princess, the defective one, stared at the floor. His mind raced. This was supposed to be about politics, about securing Earth's future, about making the smart choice. Every instinct told him to choose one of the powerful princesses, but another instinct, one deeper and more human, told him something else. He walked past the 5th princess, past the 6th. The hall went silent. Even the Emperor leaned forward on his throne. Stopped in front of the 7th princess. She looked up, her purple eyes wide with shock. "What is your name?" asked. She whispered. Her voice was soft, almost musical. He held out his hand, palm up, the way he had seen the other soldiers do. Will you accept my choice? Stared at his hand like it was a trap. You don't want me, I am broken, choose another. You're not broken, said. You're just different, and different isn't weakness. The Emperor stood from his throne. Human soldier, do you understand what you are doing? This daughter has minimal telepathic ability. She cannot offer you the advantages her sisters provide. Kept his eyes on. With respect, Your Majesty, I disagree. I felt her mind when she used her power. It's not weak. It operates on a different frequency, one I can actually sense. The nobles erupted in confused chatter. Humans weren't supposed to sense telepathy at all. His hand slowly reached out and touched. The moment their skin made contact, that tingling sensation exploded across his mind. Not painful, exhilarating. He saw flickering images, probability, possibility, futures branching like infinite trees. Impossible, someone in the crowd breathed. The Emperor studied them for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. Very well, the bond is witnessed. But know this, human, you have chosen poorly. Do not blame the when your alliance suffers for this mistake. Smiled. He had spent his whole military career being underestimated, being told he was too small, too young, too reckless. And every time he had proven the doubters wrong. Respectfully, Your Majesty, said, still holding his trembling hand, I think I've chosen perfectly. As the ceremony ended and the crowd dispersed, whispering and gossiping, Felt's telepathic touch again. This time he understood it wasn't weakness he sensed. It was potential, raw, terrifying, unlimited potential. And he had just claimed it for humanity. The outer wing of the palace was beautiful, but it felt like exile. Stood on the balcony of the quarters he shared with, looking out at the alien city below. Towers of crystal caught the light from 3 different moons, casting rainbow shadows across the streets. Behind him sat quietly in a chair, her hands folded in her lap. She had barely spoken since the ceremony 3 days ago. A single servant attended to them, a young woman named Sara who seemed to be the only one in the palace who didn't treat with contempt. You should eat something, Sara said gently, placing a tray of food on the table, shook her head. Turned from the balcony. What happens tomorrow? Training, Sara answered. All bonded pairs must attend combat synchronization sessions. You will learn to work together, combining telepathy with human reflexes. And if we fail, asked. Sora's expression darkened. Then Earth's alliance is questioned. The other pairs will be measured against you. Already, the court speaks of and Princess as the perfect bond. As if summoned by those words, shouting erupted from the training grounds below. Walked back to the balcony and saw a crowd gathered in the central courtyard. Stood in the middle, moving through a combat drill with impossible speed and precision. Above him, floated, her eyes glowing bright purple. She was in his mind, guiding every movement before he made it. Spun, kicked, and struck at holographic opponents. He never missed, he never hesitated. The crowd cheered each perfect move. Incredible, someone in the crowd said. The human warrior and our greatest princess, truly a legendary pair. Standing at the edge of the crowd was Minyu, a military commander with sharp features and cold eyes. He saw on the balcony and smiled, not a friendly smile. The next morning and entered the training hall. It was massive, with a floor marked for combat practice and observation decks rising on all sides. The other bonded pairs were already there, waved at, but his smile was pitying. Minyu stood at the center of the floor. Welcome to synchronization training. Here, we will measure the strength of each bond. Princess and soldier will demonstrate the proper technique. And move to the combat zone. Immediately, they became one fluid entity. Telepathy merged with combat training. They faced holographic enemies that moved with deadly speed, and they destroyed them all without a scratch. The crowd applauded. Minyu nodded with approval. Perfect synchronization. This is the standard all other pairs must meet. his eyes found, and "Shall we see the next pair?" Felt tense beside him, her breathing quickened. "I cannot," she whispered. "I cannot do what does." "Then we'll do something else," said quietly. They stepped onto the combat floor. The moment they entered the zone, holographic enemies appeared, alien soldiers with weapons and hostile intent. Drew on his training, moving into a defensive stance. He felt for telepathic presence, trying to connect the way, and had. Nothing happened. An enemy lunged at him, dodged but barely. Another attacked from the side. He blocked but took a painful blow to his ribs. The scoring system registered it as a serious injury. "Focus," Minyu called out. "Let the princess guide you." Tried again, reaching for mind. But her telepathy didn't work like her sister's. There was no clear voice, no direct control. Instead, he felt that strange, tingling sensation, and his mind filled with confusing images. Branches, possibilities, futures that might happen. An enemy swung at his head. Saw 3 different ways he might dodge all at once. The confusion made him freeze. The blow connected. The scoring system beeped again. Critical hit. "Enough," Minyu declared. "This is embarrassing. The defective princess cannot even maintain a basic telepathic link." The crowd murmured in agreement. Saw looking away, uncomfortable, stared at her sister with something like pity. His eyes filled with tears. She turned and ran from the hall. Started to follow, but Minyu blocked his path. "Let her go, human. You made a poor choice. Perhaps it is not too late to petition the Emperor for a different bond." "Get out of my way," said quietly. Minyu's smile widened. "Or what? You will fight me. I am a warrior with centuries of experience." "I said move." For a moment their eyes locked. Then Minyu stepped aside, laughing. "Go to your broken princess. You deserve each other." Found in their quarters, standing on the balcony. Sora was trying to comfort her, but was staring out at the city with empty eyes. "Leave us," said to Sora. The servant hesitated, then bowed and left. Walked to the balcony. "I'm sorry." "For what?" asked. "You were right to choose another. I cannot do what my sisters do. I have always been broken." "Stop saying that." "It is truth," turned to him, her eyes blazing. "I cannot read minds clearly. I cannot move objects. I cannot do any of the things a princess should do. My own father is ashamed of me." "Then show me what you can do," said. "What?" "You did something during the selection ceremony. I felt it. And today in the training hall I felt it again. Not instructions, something else. Images, possibilities." He stepped closer. "Show me what you really are." Looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she raised her hand. The tingling sensation returned to his mind, but stronger now. His vision split. No. He saw the balcony as it was, but also as it might be in the next second and the second after that. He saw himself moving and all the paths his movement could take. Past, present, and future blurred together. "I see probability," whispered. "Not thoughts, not the present. I see the quantum fields that underlie all reality, every possible future branching infinitely. It is overwhelming." His mind raced. On Earth, scientists had been working on quantum computers for decades. They studied probability, uncertainty, the strange rules that governed reality at its smallest levels. What described wasn't weakness. It was the foundation of the universe itself. "Your people think this is a defect?" asked. "They cannot understand it. They see the present, read current thoughts. I see too much, too many possibilities. They call it madness." Sora's voice came from the doorway. "I tried to protect her. All her life I have served her, hidden what she could do. The royal family wanted to fix her with neural modification. They would have destroyed what makes her unique." Looked at with new eyes. "On Earth, we have a saying, the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried. Your ability isn't broken. You just never learned how to use it properly." "How could I?" asked. "No one understands it." Smiled. "But I do. Or at least my people do. We've been studying quantum mechanics, probability theory, all of it. Maybe your telepathy doesn't work like your sister's because it's something completely different, something better. For the first time since the ceremony, smiled. That night they began to experiment, not with methods but with human ones. The state dinner was the most formal event had ever attended. The great hall was filled with nobles from across the empire, all wearing their finest robes. Long tables stretched the length of the room, covered with foods from a dozen different worlds. Musicians played instruments that created sounds had never heard before. He sat at a side table with Sora attending them quietly. They had been training together for 2 weeks now, and the change in was remarkable. She stood. Her eyes held confidence instead of shame, had taught her to filter her overwhelming perceptions using techniques adapted from human meditation and pattern recognition training. At the head table, the emperor sat with his most favored daughters, was there, looking radiant beside. The third princess laughed at something a noble said. None of them looked toward the side table where sat. "They pretend I do not exist," said quietly. "Let them," replied. "We know what you can do." A scientist named had been watching their training sessions with fascination. She sat a few tables away, taking notes on a data pad. When she caught's eye, she nodded with respect. Minyu stood and raised a glass. "A toast," he announced, his voice carrying through the hall. "To Princess and the human warrior, whose perfect synchronization brings honor to both our peoples. They are a shining example of what our alliance can achieve." Everyone drank, looked embarrassed by the attention but pleased, smiled graciously. Minyu wasn't finished, and let us hope that other bonds will learn from their example. Some have struggled to meet basic standards. His eyes flickered towards table. Felt stiffened beside him. He put his hand over hers under the table. "Ignore him," he whispered. The emperor rose to speak. As he did, felt something strange. That tingling sensation at the base of his skull, telepathic signature, suddenly spiked with alarm. He turned to her. Her eyes were wide, unfocused, seeing something no one else could see. She breathed, the probability streams. They're collapsing toward violence. Someone is about to. The main doors exploded inward. Chaos erupted. Armed figures in dark armor burst into the hall, weapons firing. Nobles screamed and scattered. Palace guards rushed forward, but the attackers moved with trained precision. One of the armored figures raised a weapon aimed directly at the emperor. Everything seemed to slow down. Saw react, her telepathy reaching out to disable the attacker's mind. But the attacker wore a mental shield. Her powers couldn't touch him. Was already moving, running toward the emperor, but he was too far away. Even at full sprint, he would be 3 seconds too late. 3 seconds, the emperor would die. But had Felt's warning 2 seconds before the doors exploded. 2 seconds of advance notice. He was already moving. Grabbed a metal serving tray from the table and threw it. His aim was perfect. Years of combat training combined with probability calculations flowing through their shared connection. The tray spun through the air and struck the attacker's weapon just as it fired. The shot went wide, missing the emperor's head by inches. Didn't stop. He vaulted over the table and sprinted toward the attacker. Palace guards were converging, but they were still too slow. Telepathy fed him information, branching futures, possible movements, the percentages of success for each action. The attacker turned toward, raising another weapon. Saw the future probability of being shot was 78% if he dodged left, 62% if he dodged right, 94% if he went straight. So he went straight. His perception showed him the exact moment the attacker would fire. The microsecond of muscle tension before the finger pulled the trigger. Dropped to the floor a fraction of a second before the shot, sliding across the polished marble like a baseball player stealing home plate. He struck the attacker's legs, bringing him down. They fought hand-to-hand for 3 brutal seconds before palace guards swarmed in and restrained the attacker. More guards subdued the other attackers. The whole assault had lasted less than a minute. The hall was silent except for heavy breathing and a few sobs. Stood up, his dress uniform torn and dirty. He looked toward. She sat at her table, eyes still glowing with telepathic energy, having guided him through every movement. The Emperor stared at them both. "You knew," he said. "Before the attack began, you knew." Bode saw it, Your Majesty. She perceived the probability of the attack seconds before it happened. "Impossible," said. "I was monitoring the room telepathically. I sensed nothing." "Because you were looking for thoughts," said, standing up from her table. All eyes turned to the scientist. "Princess doesn't read thoughts. She reads quantum probability fields. She saw the attack before it manifested in conscious thought." Minyu's face had gone pale. The defective princess saved the Emperor. "She is not defective," said firmly. "She is evolved. Her neural structure is adapted for perceiving reality at a deeper level than normal telepathy. She is the first of what could be a new stage in our species' development." The Emperor walked down from the head table. He approached and slowly studying them. "How long have you been able to do this?" "The human taught her," Sora said, stepping forward bravely. He recognized what she was when no one else could. He used human scientific methods to help her control her abilities. The Emperor looked at. "You saw value where my entire court saw only weakness." "With respect, Your Majesty," said, "humans have a lot of practice finding strength in unexpected places. We had to. We're not the biggest, fastest, or strongest species. We learn to win by being adaptable." Approached beside him. Said quietly, "I'm sorry, we all underestimated you both." Looked at her sister for the first time with something other than pity. "I never knew." "You never asked," replied softly. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. "Clearly, I have been blind to the potential within my own house, and clearly this human method of training has value." He turned to address the entire hall. "From this day forward, princess and soldier will train other bonded pairs in their techniques. If this partnership model can be replicated, it will change everything." Nobles began to whisper excitedly. Was already making notes. Minyu looked like he wanted to protest but couldn't find words. But as servants led away the captured attackers, one of them laughed. "You think this changes anything? You think one princess matters? They are coming. The architects are coming. And all your little alliances won't save you." Guards silenced him, but his words sent a chill through the room. Later that night stood on the balcony with. The city below was on high alert, but calm had returned to the palace. The architects said, "I have heard rumors of them, ancient beings who shaped the galaxy long ago. And who apparently don't like what we're doing," said. Turned to him, "Are you afraid?" Smiled, terrified, "But back on Earth we have another saying, the only way out is through. Whatever's coming, we'll face it together." Took his hand. Through their connection he felt her certainty, her gratitude, and something else, determination. The overlooked princess had become something no one expected, and had a feeling they had only seen the beginning. The alarm siren screamed across the palace at dawn. Jerked awake, his soldier instincts taking over immediately. Beside him, sat up, her eyes already glowing with telepathic energy. "The colony world of," she said, her voice distant. "Under attack. The synthetic machines have returned." Within minutes they were in the war room. The Emperor stood before a massive holographic display showing a planet engulfed in fire. Ships, thousands of them, descended from orbit. They weren't designs. They weren't any organic species designs. They were the same synthetic machines that had attacked Earth 2 years ago. "How is this possible?" demanded. "We destroyed their fleet. We won that war." Commander stood with other human military advisors. "We destroyed a fleet, not all of them. Clearly they rebuilt." The Emperor turned to his military council. What are our options? Minyu stepped forward. Despite his humiliation after the assassination attempt, he remained the Empire's chief military strategist. We send the main battle fleet immediately. Princess and Warrior will lead the synchronized combat forces. Their proven bond gives us the best chance of victory. Everyone nodded in agreement. It made sense, and had demonstrated perfect synchronization. They were the Empire's champions. Stepped forward. Your Majesty, I request that and I accompany the fleet. Silence filled the room. Minyu actually laughed. And what would you contribute? The ability to see probable futures means nothing in combat. Battle requires action, not contemplation. Can predict enemy movements, argued. She can see their tactical decisions before they make them. The synthetics have no minds, said quietly. There are no thoughts to read, no consciousness to predict. My telepathy is useless against them. That is why this battle will be won with weapons and tactics, not mental powers. The Emperor nodded. Princess speaks wisdom. She and will depart immediately with the fleet. The rest of you will remain here to defend the capital. Looked at through their bond, he felt her frustration mirror his own. They both knew she could help, but no one would listen. The fleet departed within the hour. 20 massive warships carrying thousands of warriors and human soldiers, and stood on the bridge of the flagship, ready to coordinate the battle. Watched them go from the palace observatory, feeling helpless. They are wrong, said beside him. I know. The probability streams show disaster. The fleet is walking into a trap. Can you be certain? Closed her eyes. Her consciousness expanded, touching the quantum fields of probability that surrounded everything. She saw branching futures, collapsing possibilities, the weight of destiny pulling toward one inevitable outcome. Yes, she whispered, they will lose, thousands will die. Sara approached them. Then what will you do? And looked at each other. The bond between them had grown stronger over the past weeks. They could communicate entire concepts with a glance. We're going to steal a ship, said. Commander found them in the human section of the palace, preparing to leave. I know what you're planning, he said. It's insubordination. They could execute you for this. Will you stop us? Asked. Studied them both. Then he smiled, the same smile he had worn when had volunteered for impossible missions during the machine war. I'll do better than that. I'll come with you. You'll need a pilot. They took a small human frigate that had been assigned to Earth's embassy. Sara joined them without being asked. Where you go, I go, she said too. I have protected you all your life. I will not stop now. Appeared on the landing platform as they prepared to launch. Take me with you, the scientist said. If you're right about what Princess can do, I need to see it. I need to document it. Within an hour, they were in hyperspace, chasing after the main fleet. They arrived at to find hell. The fleet was scattered, individual ships fighting desperately against swarms of synthetic fighters. The flagship was damaged, trailing atmosphere. On the comm channels could hear panic and confusion. They adapted, his voice came through, strained and exhausted. They learned from our last battle. They predict our every move. Because they're using probability calculations, said into the comm. The same quantum logic that uses, but purely mathematical. They're running millions of simulations, finding the optimal path to victory. Then how do we fight them? Voice asked. You can't, said. Not alone, we need. Minyu's voice cut in. The defective princess. She has no weapons, no fleet command experience. She has something better, interrupted. She can outcalculate them. Machines run on logic. Princess operates on quantum uncertainty. She can create paradoxes in their predictions. It's never been done, said, looking at the frigate's controls. Linking an alien telepathic consciousness directly to a human quantum tactical computer. Then we'll be the first, said. He turned to, are you ready? She was terrified. He could feel it through their bond. What they were about to attempt could destroy her mind, but she nodded anyway. Worked quickly, connecting interface cables to his temples. The frigate's quantum computer was designed to process probability calculations for targeting and tactics. Now, it would merge with his consciousness. The moment the connection activated, gasped. Her eyes went completely white, glowing with impossible intensity. Felt her presence explode outward, expanding beyond the ship, beyond normal space. She touched the quantum probability fields of the entire battle. I see them, his voice echoed strangely, as if speaking from a great distance. All the synthetics, all their calculations, all their predicted futures. The frigate's computer screens lit up with data streams moving faster than any human could read, but could read them. She could see every possible move the synthetic fleet could make, every response the fleet might attempt, every branching timeline of the battle. Flagship, said into the comm, is going to feed you tactical coordinates. Follow them exactly. Don't question, don't hesitate, trust her. For a moment silence, then's voice, we trust you, sister. The battle transformed. Called out coordinates and relayed them to the fleet. Ships moved to positions that seemed random but weren't. They fired at empty space seconds before synthetic fighters arrived there. They broke formation in ways that violated every tactical doctrine, yet somehow avoided the enemy's perfect predictions. The synthetics couldn't adapt. Every time they calculated the optimal response, saw that calculation and chose a different probability branch. She fought them on their own ground, pure mathematics, but with the advantage of quantum uncertainty. She didn't just calculate possibilities. She collapsed probability waves, making the impossible happen through sheer force of will combined with quantum processing power. And the other soldiers fought with renewed hope, following guidance, used her telepathy to coordinate the warriors, while handled the larger strategic picture. The synthetic fleet began to break apart, their perfect tactics useless against an opponent who could see and manipulate probability itself. Within an hour, it was over. The synthetics retreated into hyperspace, their supposedly unstoppable invasion shattered. The fleet regrouped, damaged but victorious. On every ship, warriors stood in stunned silence, trying to understand what had just happened. In the frigate, disconnected from the computer, the princess collapsed into his arms, exhausted but alive. Her eyes returned to normal, the white glow fading. "Did we win?" she asked weakly. "We won," said, holding her close. The comm channel activated. The Emperor's holographic image appeared. He had watched the entire battle from the capital. "Bring them home," he said quietly, "all of them." When they returned to the palace 2 days later, the entire court gathered to meet them. No one whispered about the defective princess now. No one mocked the human who had chosen poorly. The Emperor stood before his assembled court and made a proclamation that shocked the galaxy. "From this day forward, my daughter is named Crown Princess, first in line to the throne. She has proven herself not just worthy but superior. She is the future of our people." Stepped forward. Instead of anger or jealousy, her face showed genuine respect. She bowed to her younger sister. "I was wrong about you. We all were. Teach me. Teach all of us." The third princess knelt. "Forgive me, sister. I allowed Minu to manipulate me against you. I spoke cruel words." Helped her sister stand. "There is nothing to forgive. We are family." The Emperor continued. "And to soldier, who saw what no one else could see, we grant the title of Royal Consort and Strategic Advisor. Your human methods will be taught throughout the Empire." But as the celebration began, a warning came through the long-range sensors. A message, transmitted from deep space on all frequencies. A voice spoke, old, cold, and utterly alien. "You have disrupted our designs. You have connected what we separated. The architects do not forgive this transgression. We are coming." The celebration stopped. Everyone looked to the Emperor. He looked too and smiled that fearless human smile. "Let them come." 6 months had changed everything. Stood in the training academy that he and had built on the outskirts of the capital city. The building was a blend of human and architecture, practical Earth design merged with elegant alien aesthetics. Inside, 50 bonded pairs practiced the synchronization techniques that had developed. He watched work with a human scientist named. They moved through a tactical simulation, not with dominating the human's mind, but with both contributing equally. Telepathy provided awareness. Analytical mind provided strategy. Together, they were more than the sum of their parts. "They're learning," said, joining him. She wore robes befitting a crown princess now, but she still preferred to spend her time in the academy rather than the palace. "Faster than I expected," admitted. "Even has embraced the new methods." The third princess approached them with her human partner. "Royal sister," she said to, bowing respectfully. "We completed the probability synchronization drill. Our score improved by 40%. "Excellent," said warmly. "Your progress honors us both." After left took's hand. "You're different from the woman I met 6 months ago." "Because you helped me become who I was meant to be," she replied. Their moment was interrupted by alarms. Not attack alarms. These were diplomatic signals. Rushed into the training hall, her data pad glowing with incoming messages. "It's happening," she said breathlessly. "The other species, they all want to learn." Within hours, the palace was flooded with representatives from across the Galactic Coalition. There were a species of crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns, who breathed methane and lived in massive organic ships, the warrior reptiles who had always considered themselves superior to other species. All of them wanted to learn the human method of partnership. The Emperor called an emergency council and stood before representatives of 20 different civilizations. "This integration technique," an ambassador said, its voice chiming like bells, "it has allowed your people to defeat enemies who crushed us. We wish to understand it." A general slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Your princess uses abilities our seers cannot comprehend. Your human teaches methods that contradict centuries of our military doctrine, yet they work. We demand access to this knowledge." The Emperor looked overwhelmed. "The academy can only train so many." "Then we will build more academies," said, stepping forward. He had been promoted to Earth's chief ambassador. "On every coalition world, we will share everything we've learned. That's what humans do. We adapt, we share, we connect." "But there is a cost," said seriously. She projected holographic data for all to see. "I have been studying the synthetic attacks. They were not random. The machines were created by the architects, an ancient species we know almost nothing about, and I have discovered why they attack." She showed records dating back thousands of years. "The architects shaped the galaxy long ago. They seeded different species on different worlds, but they kept us separated. They ensured we would develop differently, never combining our strengths." "Why?" asked. "Because united, we would be stronger than them," said. "The synthetics are their tool to destroy any species that tries to unify. They attacked Earth because humans defeated them through cooperation. They attacked us because we bonded with humans. They fear what we're becoming." A heavy silence fell over the council. Then the general laughed. It was a harsh, reptilian sound. "So they try to keep us weak and divided. Then we spit in their faces and unite anyway." The ambassador chimed agreement. One by one, every species representative voiced their support. But as they planned their alliance, long-range sensors detected something massive entering the outer system. Ships, but not like any ships in the Coalition database. These vessels were enormous, ancient, built from materials that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. The architects had arrived. The Emperor looked at his council. "They have come to punish us for defying their design. What do we do?" Every eye turned to and felt his heart pounding. This was bigger than any battle he had fought, bigger than the machine war. These were beings who had shaped civilizations for. But squeezed his hand. Through their bond he felt her certainty. "We fight," said simply. "Against the architects," Minyu said. Despite his redemption and new respect for, he still carried the weight of military experience. "They are beyond our understanding." "No," said firmly, "they are not. I have perceived them through the quantum fields. They are powerful, yes. Ancient, yes. But they are not invincible. They fear us because they know we can win." "How?" the Emperor asked. Smiled. "By doing what they never expected. By being what they tried to prevent. By showing them that the galaxy doesn't belong to them anymore." The Coalition fleet assembled, the largest gathering of diverse species in recorded history. Telepaths worked alongside human tacticians. Energy specialists coordinated with biological engineers. Warriors trained with species they had once considered prey. And at the center of it all, in a modified flagship, connected to a massive quantum computer network that linked every ship in the fleet. When the architects attacked, they brought weapons beyond imagination. Energy beams that could tear apart planets, dimensional rifts that swallowed entire ships, technology that made Coalition weapons seem like children's toys. But saw it all before it happened. She perceived the probability of every attack, calculated the optimal response, and shared that information instantly with every ship in the fleet through the quantum network. The moved where she directed, the fired when she indicated. Humans adapted tactics in real time based on her predictions. The battle raged for hours. The architects fought with cold efficiency, but they could not adapt to an enemy that literally saw the future. Every time they fired, knew where the shot would go. Every time they maneuvered, she predicted their position. But more than that, the Coalition fought with something the architects couldn't calculate, the chaotic creativity of diverse minds working together. Humans suggested crazy tactics, modified them with telepathic coordination, executed them with warrior precision, added energy manipulation the architects had never encountered. It was messy, it was unpredictable, it was beautifully, perfectly human. And it worked. The architect fleet began to retreat. For the first time they faced an opponent they couldn't defeat through technology alone. A message came from the architect command ship. A voice that sounded like cosmic wind spoke. "You have become what we tried to prevent, a synthesis, a unity we miscalculated." "You try to keep us in boxes," replied, his words broadcast to the entire architect fleet. "You thought you could control the galaxy by keeping species separate, but you forgot something. Life adapts, life connects, life finds a way." "You will regret this unity," the architect voice said. "The galaxy is cruel, species will betray each other, your alliance will crumble." "Maybe," said, her voice carrying the weight of quantum certainty. "I see those probability branches, but I also see the futures where we succeed, where we grow stronger together, where we become something greater than any single species. Those futures are possible too, and we choose to fight for them." The architect's ships vanished into hyperspace, retreating into the dark edges of the galaxy. The Coalition fleet erupted in celebration. On every ship, different species embraced, cheered, celebrated their impossible victory. Back on a ceremony was held, not just for the Empire but for the entire Coalition. Representatives from every species gathered in the Grand Hall where, 6 months ago, had chosen the overlooked princess. The Emperor stood before them all. "Today, we dissolve the Coalition as it was. Today, we form something new. The Synthesis Alliance, an organization where every species contributes equally, where diversity is our strength, where we face the galaxy united." The vote was unanimous, and were asked to speak. They stood together before thousands of beings from across the stars. 6 months ago, said, I was called defective, broken, worthless. One human soldier saw differently. He saw potential where others saw weakness. On Earth, added, we have a long history of being underestimated. We're not the strongest, not the fastest, but we learned to win anyway. We learned that the best weapon is the one your enemy overlooks. We learned to value what others dismiss. Continued, the architects kept us separate because together we are stronger than them. They feared what we could become, and they were right to fear it. Smiled, looking out at the assembled species. Because here's what humans learned a long time ago: we change the battlefield. If we can't win your game, we change the rules. If you want us to fight alone, we find allies. If you want us to stay weak, we get stronger. We adapt. We survive. We thrive. And now, said, we are not just humans or any single species. We are the synthesis. We are what happens when the galaxy refuses to be divided. The crowd erupted in applause that echoed through the hall, clapping, chiming, roaring, clicking, a symphony of different species celebrating together. Later, and stood on their balcony, watching the city below. Ships from a dozen worlds filled the sky, all bearing the new symbol of the Synthesis Alliance. Do you think they'll really stay together? Asked. The probability calculations show high chances of conflict. Probably, said. We'll fight, we'll disagree. We might even war with each other sometimes, but we'll also talk, trade, learn, connect. That's what species do when they're not being manipulated by ancient aliens. Leaned against him. Thank you. For what? For seeing me, for choosing me, for believing in me when no one else did. Turned to face her. I didn't choose you because I was being noble. I chose you because I'm human. And humans, we have a talent for finding value in overlooked things. It's kind of our specialty. She smiled. What happens now? Now, looked up at the stars. Now we explore, we build, we discover. We face whatever comes next together. The architects might come back. New enemies might appear. The galaxy is dangerous. And we'll be ready, finished. Exactly, because the most important thing the architects forgot, grinned that fearless human grin. Humanity's not special because we're strong. We're special because we make everyone around us stronger. We're at our best when we're helping others be their best. And now, the whole galaxy is going to learn that lesson. In the sky above, the first joint synthesis exploration fleet prepared to launch. Human engineers worked beside telepaths. Scientists collaborated with warriors. Dozens of species working together, ready to face the unknown. The overlooked princess and the human soldier watched them go, hand in hand, knowing they had changed the galaxy forever. Not through conquest, not through domination, but through connection, through synthesis, through the simple human act of seeing value, where others saw weakness and choosing to believe in impossible possibilities. And that, more than any weapon or technology, was humanity's true gift to the stars.